Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel once again. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to make a cargo pocket. So if this is something you're interested in learning, keep watching and let's get started. So the first thing to know is that to make two cargo pockets, you'll be needing half yard of your preferred fabric. So these are the pieces we'd be using to make just one pocket. So this rectangular piece would be used for the lower pockets and is just a single piece. Why this smaller rectangular piece would be for the pocket cuff, and I duplicated it. So now this longer piece is called the border, which would be later attached to the sides of the lower pockets. So the next step is to take the measurements of all the pieces. So now for the lower pockets, the width is 15 inches. So take note that I'll be making a key split in the center of this pocket. And after the pleat has been made, it would reduce the width of this lower pocket to 9 inches. As we go deep into this tutorial, you understand what I mean. Alright, the length of the lower pocket is 10 inches. So this is the pocket cuff. For the width of the pocket cuff, I used 9 inches. So recall that when I measured the width of the lower pocket, which was 15 inches, I said that after making a key split in the center of this lower pocket, the width would reduce to 9 inches. So this is my reason for using 9 inches for the pocket cuff as the width. Now, for the length, I used 4 inches. So this is the pocket border. For the width of the border, I used 30 inches, while the length of the pocket border is 3 inches. So once you have your pieces ready, like I do, then you are good to go. Now for the sewing process, I would like us to work with the lower pockets first. This is the lower pocket and I'm going to fold it into two, right side of the fabric facing each other. Now I'll go ahead to give it a quick press so that a line will be created in the center of this fold. So now to make the key split, which would be in the center of the lower pocket, I place my measuring tape from the center of the fold to mark 3 inches at the top and 3 inches at the bottom. Now I'll go ahead to notch these points I chalked. The next step is to unfold this piece and to flip the piece to the wrong side of the fabric. After that, I would use the points I notched on this side from the top and at the bottom as a guide in folding this side to the right side of the fabric, and then I would use my iron to give it a quick press in order to create a line there. I would also fold this other side using this notch part at the top and bottom as a guide. I would give this a quick press and this would create another line here, which would be the third line. Now I'll go ahead to flip this piece to the right side of the fabric. Now you'd notice that we have three lines, which is one, the center line here, two, and this third line here. Now on this third line, I would create a fold in such a way that the line meets the center of this piece. And this is how the fold should be at the back. I'll go ahead to pin this folded side. After pinning, I adjusted the first line and created another fold to meet the center line as well. So this would form a key split. And now I went ahead to pin this folded area. So the key split has been created and this is how it should be at the back. So after making my pleats, the width of this lower pocket has reduced to 9 inches. Now the next step is to attach the border. But before doing that, I'm going to fold one side of the edges inward by ½ inch using my pressing iron. Now these edges of the border that wasn't folded would be placed directly on the edges of the lower pockets, right side to right side facing each other, and I would pin them together. So due to the shape of these pockets, you'd realize that for you to be able to attach the border conveniently, you need to create a triangular pleat on the border when you get to the end of the pockets around this area, so that the remaining borders will relax properly at the bottom of the pockets here. So obviously you can see that I'm creating a triangular pleat here, and then I'll go ahead to pin the edges of the pleats at this edge. On getting to the bottom of the pocket, I made sure that the key split at the center of the bottom of the pocket is still intact before placing my border directly on it. Then I went ahead to pin together. So on getting to this other edge, I made sure that I created a triangular pleat on the border just the way I did for this second side. And then I went ahead to adjust the remaining borders to sit properly on the sides of the pocket here. So I'll just go ahead to pin the rest of the border on the pocket. So from the top of the pocket, you'd notice that there's an excess border. So I'll just go ahead to trim it out. The next step is to take the pocket to my sewing machine to stitch the edges by half an inch following the direction of the chalk. And when you get to this point where you made a triangle, you have to raise the triangle so that you don't stitch directly on it. So you keep stitching the edges by half an inch until you get to this end. After stitching the borders, the next thing I did was to create a notch here and to create another notch on this other side as well, so that I can easily turn the pockets to the right side of the fabric. Now from the top of the pockets where you have a key split, I would mark 1.5 inches. I'll take this to my sewing machine to just make a little stitch here in order to hold the kissing pleat at the top. After securing the kissing pleats at the top of the pocket, the next thing I did was to turn the borders of the pockets to the right side of the fabric. Using my pressing iron, I would be folding the borders of the pockets inward in such a way that the borders of the pocket isn't showing at the edges of the other side. So now, this side where I made a triangular shape, you can see how it's formed easily. So I'll just use my pressing iron to hold it down. After doing this, I'll go ahead to pin the borders of the pockets, and then I'll flip the pockets to the right side of the fabric. I would take the pocket to my sewing machine to make a stitch half an inch away from the edges of this pocket in order to give the pocket a structure following the direction of the chalk. After stitching the edges of the pocket, this is how it should be. So I'm just going to unpin the borders, and the next step is to stitch the top of the pocket. To do this, I'm going to fold the top of the pocket inward by 1.5 inches. After folding the top of the pocket by 1.5 inches, I went ahead to give it a quick press, and I took the pocket to the sewing machine to fold in these edges inward by half an inch and then stitch directly on it. So after stitching the top of the pocket, this is how the pocket should be. So the lower pocket is ready, and the next step is on how to make the pocket cuff. For the pocket cuff, I placed the fabric right side to right side facing each other. I took it to the sewing machine to stitch the edges by half an inch following the direction of the chalk. After stitching the edges of the pocket cuff, I notched both sides here, and then I turned the pocket cuff to the right side of the fabric. Now I'm going to give it a quick press, and I'll take the cuff to the sewing machine to top stitch half an inch away from the folded edges following the direction of the chalk. Alright guys, so we've completed the lower pockets and we've also completed the pocket cuff. The final step is to attach the pocket to your shirt, trouser or your skirt. So let's say I already had a pants I want to attach the cargo pocket to. The first step is to mark the points where you want the pocket to be attached. Then the next step is to fold in the borders of the pockets inward in such a way that it is just the lower pocket that is showing. So I'll go ahead to trace out the edges of my lower pockets directly on my pants. Once this is done, you take out the pocket itself and then you spread out the borders Recall that I folded the edges of the lower borders by half inch already. Now I'm going to place the edges of the lower borders directly on this line I traced to pin together. And when I get to this edge where I made a triangular pleat, I'll go ahead to pleat it again. That's to pleat the lower edges again directly on this line I traced. Once it's pleated, I would place it on this line to pin together. Now I'm also going to keep adjusting the borders on the bottom of the line to pin together. Now when I get to this other edge, I would fold the triangular pleats properly to pin it together on this line that was traced out. Then I would continue pinning directly on this line. Now I will take the pocket to my sewing machine to stitch the lower edges of the border. After stitching the lower edges of the border, this is how the pocket should be. And this is how the inside of the pocket should be. The final thing I would do on the lower pocket is to close the borders on this side. Then I would place my measuring tape from the top of the pocket here at this edge to mark 1.5 inches. I'll pin this together and I'll take it to my sewing machine to stitch from this point to this point. On this other side as well, I would close the borders here to mark 1.5 inches from the top. Then I would stitch from the top to this point I chalked. So this would close the border and give the pocket a good fitting. So can you see how beautiful the pocket came out? Now the final step is on how to attach the cuff. I would place my measuring tape on the top of the pocket opening to mark half inch, and then I would rule a straight line across these points I marked. Then I would place the rough edges of the pocket cuff directly on the line to pin and stitch the edges together by 1/4 inch. After stitching, this is how it should be. The next step is to close the pocket cuff, and I will take the pocket to the sewing machine to top stitch 1/2 inch away from the top of the pocket cuff so that it covers the seam below. Alright guys, so this is the final outcome of the cargo pockets. I hope this tutorial was helpful. You should give it a try, and if you would like to learn how to make a cargo pants, I'll be dropping the link in the description box. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, share and like my videos. See you in my next tutorial.